Well, hello again, crew. Welcome back to Libertalia Game Supply. I don't have a deck profile for you today. Perhaps I will have one for you in a day or two. Wink. In the meantime, we're going to rank every single one of the legendary Duelist sets to have been released to date. So starting with number 1 here, just plain old legendary Duelist, all the way up to the one that is coming out this week, Soul Burning Volcano. And let's see if this one that's coming out is as good, better, worse as all the previous sets. I took some notes because it's been a while since I've really thought about most of these sets, and I had to refresh on what was in each of them, so I'll try to refresh you as well. This ranking will not necessarily be based on market value, even though I think that does matter. Just off of the top of my head, I believe this set is like a $24 a box right now, which is horrendous. And I believe some of these sets are like $250 to $300 a box right now. And I will tell you that there are not very many of these sets that have even a single card over $20. So the value of buying sealed is definitely not there, especially when they didn't even start doing ghost rares until you got to Rage of Raw. So let's take a walk down memory lane and see what we feel about this. First off here, we've got plain old legendary Duelist released in September of 2017. This set contained Red Eye support, Amazonas support, Roid support, Cyberdark support, Water support for Mako Tsunami type decks, and Water Dragon support. So Bastion Masawa, like the Duotarion, was in there. I remember that. I thought that was super cool. At the time, I had built a deck that had Zodiac Barrage in it, because I don't remember anymore because it's been years now. There was something you could do with Zodiac Barrage with the Duotarion to be able to summon the Water Dragon cluster easily, or I mean not easily, the deck was trash, but it could be done, and so I thought that was fun. As far as notable reprints, the only thing that I wrote down and apparently felt was reasonable was Red Eye's Fusion got a reprint, and I believe this was before Dark Dragoon got announced. It might have been like well before, so it was like a pretty cheap common at that point in time, which ended up being very useful, very valuable. I might have the timeline a little mixed up there, but it did get a common reprint in this set. Outside of that, Red Eye's Baby Dragon is in there, which is a couple bucks. It was like 15 bucks or something, I think. I believe that it's fairly usable in a Red Eye's deck, but I also haven't seen anybody build a Red Eye's deck in a very long time. I haven't seen one, so I don't know what's in there anymore. It's all a mystery to me, but based on the price of the card, I imagine that it must be played in some quantity. Otherwise, all you're really looking at here as far as cards that remained relevant in any capacity is some of the Amazonas stuff. I think Princess was one of the ones in here. Is still a staple card in that deck, even though that deck isn't necessarily meta. And some of the water control stuff, like the Sea Stealth Attack, was in here as well. So set up for a deck that would come into existence way down the line over here with the Duelists of the Deep, or whatever it's called. I'd say for a first effort, it's got a lot of good collectability, just in terms of like casual collectability, not like long-term hold. I wouldn't say it's really good enough because it really didn't hold any value. There was nothing super chaseable. I think everything's gotten reprinted. There's nothing super unique about it outside of that. I want to say that all the Red Eye stuff got reprinted maybe in the Megatins that year, something along those lines. So we'll call this meh, a beautiful down the middle of the road set. I don't think that you're really getting rinsed if you pick this stuff up on the time that it was on shelves, but at like 250 bucks a box, hell no, do not do it to yourself. Number 2, what was this one called? I don't remember. It's the Pegasus one, Legendary Duelist 2. And we'll consult the notes here. We had Relinquish support, Insect support, Ancient Gear / Machine support, Odrama support, and Crystal Beast support. I think this had the, whatever card is it, Crystal Beast Bond, where it's Jesse Anderson holding the Ruby Carbuncle. Just really cool artwork, and it's a pretty good card for Crystal Beast. All in all, once again, we're not looking at like meta-relevant decks at almost any point, I think, until we get down maybe closer to here down the road. But as far as the decks that are being supported, I think they are fan favorites. I think that counts for something. And as far as relevant reprints go, we had Toon Kingdom, and I put Instant Fusion down here for some reason. Nobody really uses that. It's not an expensive card anymore, and I can't actually remember if at the time, this set came out in February of 2018, if Instant Fusion was even a valuable card back then. It's just a good staple card to have copies of, so having a rare copy of it just laying around every now and again is probably going to come in handy if you build a lot of different decks. So I assume that's why I felt that that mattered. The Toon Kingdom is actually the most expensive card in the set. It's a rare, and it's like 16 or 17 bucks, so not very good in terms of total value. This is another one that's like well over $200 a box right now. And with all of that being the case, it appears that I didn't even consider anything that was originally printed in the set to be worth noting. I mean, you had some of the relinquished support that I don't think I've ever seen top ever at any point. And then I suppose the Crystal Beast stuff became more relevant once we got the structure deck down the road, but all in all, I'd rather not, honestly. As much as I'm a fan of the relinquished and Crystal Beast stuff, I just don't think that the value was there. I don't think that the set list was really all that impressive, and we're going to move right along here to, I believe this one was White Dragon Abyss, Legendary Duelist 3, September of 2018. And in this set, we had Blue Eye support, Cyber Dragon support, Blackwing support, Photon support, and Abyss Actor support. So as far as like fan favorites go, that's it right there. Blue Eyes and Blackwing is pretty much always going to blow you out of the water. This is also one of the rare sets here that has a card that is worth more than 20 bucks in Bingo Machine Go, and that's even after it's been reprinted. I think it's only been reprinted once. Maybe it was printed twice. I know it was in that the Legendary Duelist Season 1 thing is like, maybe it was a secret rare promo or something in that set. But anyway, this set had a ton of Blue Eyes stuff in it, as well as a bunch of common printings of the old stuff. It had the Chaos Max and Chaos Blue Eyes Ritual cards, which are kind of fun. As far as building a Blue Eyes deck, the Ritual version has always been the most fun for me, just because I feel like that version of the deck feels so much like the way Kaiba would play the deck. It's not about like synergy in any way. You just put 4,000 attack monster that can't be destroyed and just try to beat over everything. That feels very Kaiba to me. All of that being the case, I'm going to have to say it's good enough. I think that it could have been a little bit better in terms of what got printed for Blackwings. I think the support there never really was worth playing. Like, I don't even know now, because we've gotten other waves of Blackwing support since then, and I can't say that I recall seeing a list that used stuff that was originally printed in this set anyway, and I would say that's probably the one thing keeping it from being all hail Konami, which is going to be hard to do because I think a lot of people have a lot of bad will towards them. Next up, we've got LED 4. I believe it's called Sisters of the Rose or Wind or something of that nature. In this one, we have got Harpy support, Cyber Angel support, Rose support, Train support, and Lunalight support. This has got to be one of the weaker ones, which is kind of interesting to say. I think in terms of the reprints in it, they weren't really expensive to begin with. Like, maybe it reprinted a couple $10 cards or something. But everything in here now is like worth nothing. There's like no value in the set whatsoever. As far as building decks, it has decent amounts of deck cores. Like, you can build most of a Harpy deck out of this, or most of a Train deck out of this. I know nothing about Cyber Angels, so maybe it's decent stuff in here as well. But even as far as the notable printings in this set, all I wrote down was cheap Train stuff, and I think that's because Urgent Schedule got reprinted in here, and at some point Urgent Schedule you could only get as like a foreign promo for like 60 bucks a pop or something. So with all of that being considered, I think we're dumping this one in the trash. It really didn't do it for me. It whiffed on so many things. There was nothing special or unique about it. It just felt like kind of exactly what it was, like just a quick money grab for people that recognize My Valentine on the pack art. This one I cannot remember the name of. It's LED 5. It had gimmick puppets in it. What else did it have? Earthbound Immortal, Necro Fear support, Evil Hero support, Moon and Sun Dragon support, gimmick puppet, and Predaplant support. So I remember opening quite a bit of the set, just I don't remember why exactly. There was nothing out of here. Oh, I do remember why. It was the Adusted Gold and the Malicious Bane, which are the cards in here that I thought were notable, just because they're such sick cards. They're not really played in hero decks anymore. At the time, they were actually fairly meta relevant. I think that they're awesome cards still. Like, I have a copy of each, so I can still play them in heroes, even though they kind of suck in heroes now. And so for that reason, I really like the set. Outside of that, though, no meta-relevant stuff got supported whatsoever. I do believe Left Arm Offering got reprinted in here as a common. If it wasn't this one, it was in the Rage of Raw one, which we'll get to. But I'm pretty sure it was this one. Otherwise, everything else wasn't even good support for non-meta-relevant decks. Like, it just wasn't great. I'm going to have to call it meh, just because I think it might even be an I'd rather not, but I really liked the Evil Hero, Adusted Gold, and Malicious Bane, so that bumped it up one for me. Next up, we've got LED 6. I believe this one's called Magical Heroes, and this one's a banger. Came out January of 2020. It had Dark Magician support, Elemental Hero support, Synchron support, Onomatopoeia support, which is like the Gaga Gaga, Zubaba, the Zexal things, and Pendulum support, but I think it was very minimum Pendulum support. So in this set, we've got Magician's Souls, which was it's like $75 or $110 card. It's still a pretty decent engine card for like, I don't know, rogue to casual tier decks. And it's still kind of an expensive card because it's only been printed, I think, here as a secret rare in one of like the Battles of Legend or something. And then it got the colorful reprints in the Legendary Duelist season, whatever, but I think it got short printed in there. So I believe every copy of this card is still 25 bucks. Beyond that, you also had Liquid Soldier, which is fairly staple in a hero deck nowadays, as well as Elemental Hero Sunrise, which is also, I think, fairly staple in a hero deck nowadays. Now, I can't speak so much on the Synchron or Onomatopoeia support because I don't know very much about those decks. Although, looking at the set list, I don't know that very much of it actually gets played or ever got played, so that might knock it down one, but I think, spoiler alert, as far as Legendary Duelist sets go, this has to be one of the best ones, if not the best one. I don't know if I can call it that, all hail, just because it also is missing like that aspect of having like a unique printing of a card in there as far as like ghost rares or whatever. So I think for now, we're going to have to go with good enough, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to move it, which I'm surprised by, because I thought for sure I would crown this one #1, but as I'm talking myself through it right now, I don't think I can do it. And then we've got LED 7 Rage of Ra, September of 2020. It had Winged Dragon of Ra support, it had the new slime cards with the Egyptian God slime, it had some just random Merrick anime stuff that didn't matter, some Mechlord stuff, and some Jinzo stuff. So for Mechlord and Jinzo stuff, absolute trash, none of it ever did anything. Maybe it's fun to play, I wouldn't know, you can tell me if it was or wasn't. But that Egyptian God slime held value for some reason for a very long time, and I think it's just now going to be seeing its first reprint in that Rarity 25th Anniversary Collection set we're getting with all the new rarities in it. But I think the most notable thing about this set is this is when they introduced Ghost Rares, and the Ghost Rare in this set was Winged Dragon of Ra, which is still a pretty valuable Ghost Rare. It's still a pretty sick Ghost Rare. I never had one, my brother pulled one. It looks pretty nice in person. I think there were some problems with the printing quality, like people were getting them like damaged out of the pack, like they had the roller marks on them and stuff, which on a Ghost Rare is a problem because they're some of the ficklest cards you will ever deal with. They get scratched so easy. If you look at them wrong, they're going to be light played. So I want to say that this is going to have to be up at this top tier here, just because that Ghost Rare selection is like far and away one of the best choices they made as far as a one-off Ghost Rare in a set, and that'll be further demonstrated in one of the later sets we talk about here. It might even be the next one, I don't recall, but that is a great pick for a card, and I think that alone makes the box kind of fun, makes opening a pack kind of fun in a way that didn't really happen here. And so I think we might have to call it all hail Konami. So if you disagree with me, tell me about it. I like to be told I'm wrong. And yes, indeed, the next set here, LED 8. A Synchro Storm or something, I want to say. This is the one with the, like one of the worst Ghost Rare picks that they could have made, especially considering that this is the set that Baron de Fleur first came out in, which, as you are all aware, is an absolute nightmare of a card. It just runs roughshod over people. It's an amazing card. That is the only thing about this set that makes it worth opening even at all. Like, they've had boxes of this on Amazon for like 40 bucks next day delivery, and I still have never been like, nah, I don't feel like it. You had Speedroid and Synchro support, you had Plant support, and then you had Lyrilusk support. And the Ghost Rare in this set was Crystal Clearwing Synchro Dragon, which I've never even seen anybody play. I have no idea what it does. I vaguely know what it looks like. I have no idea. I have no idea why they picked this. I think because of Baron, it can't be trash, but it's definitely nothing better than I'd rather not, especially now that Baron is in other sets that are far better outside of just Baron. Alright, coming up on the end here, this one's probably going to be painful for me. LED 9 came out in June of 2022. This is Duelist of the Deep, I believe, and this had the Ghost Rare number 101. Now for me, coming back into the game after kind of not playing for a few years, I came back around the time of Judgment of the Light, hence the Boojin Love, and I never really stopped since then. So Legacy of the Valiant gave us 101 and Exciton, which were both game-breaking cards at the time, so I absolutely had to have copies of those for every deck that I played, and because of that, I still have tons of copies of Exciton, tons of copies of 101 from their original printings and all the reprints, and I just hoard them because I'm certain that someday they're going to be good again, even though based on the market price of that 101, it doesn't seem like anybody else agrees with me. So as a Ghost Rare, it is like $15, which is abysmal for a Ghost Rare, which that seems unfair to me, simply because it is still, it's not a bad card, it's just there's other stuff that's better. Outside of that card, You got Shark support, you had like Crystal Shark and some other stuff. You had Water Control support, and you had Marincess support. So Marincess is a pretty fan-favorite deck. Now me personally, I really enjoy the Water Control deck. The Kairyushin Retrain, the Electric Jellyfish, the Doom Kraken, they all do stuff that's kind of fun to do. Like, it just feels fun to shut everybody down with a $40 deck. However, I can understand that that's not everyone's cup of tea. It also isn't very meta relevant. It feels like a trash set just based on all that. Like, it seems like there's no interest in it at all. I really like it a lot, but I'm going to try to not let my bias get in the way of that, and we'll set it down here. But that still doesn't really feel right, because this set is absolute garbage. This at least has a Ghost Rare in it. You know, you had Fish Sonar. That's a pretty good search card for fish decks, which are not something people play. But I'll leave it there, and you guys can tell me if you agree or disagree. And then for our final one, Soul Burning Volcano LED 10 comes out August 11th, 2022. That is this Friday in every store everywhere. And I gotta say, I enjoy that they narrowed down the number of things they're giving support to in the more recent versions of Legendary Duelist. So this one has Salamangreat, Volcanic, and Battle and Boxer support, all of which I think are fan favorites, whether it's because of the anime or just because like Battle and Boxers were a really cheap deck that were not like terrible, they just weren't ever really good. Salamangreat was kind of meta relevant for a while, and Volcanics are you know, that Axel Brody love is for real. I think a big problem with this set is that the Ghost Rare they chose is Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, and if you'll recall, when Salamangreat first started being a thing with their structure deck, one of the big selling points of the structure deck, apart from the deck being good, was Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring getting a common reprint in there, which still ended up being like 10 or 15 bucks at some point. And so that being the case, I think I, as well as many other people, felt like a Ghost Rare Ash Blossom would have been killer. That would have been such a sick card to print as a Ghost Rare in here, and Sunlight Wolf just feels like such a weird option. Maybe because it's so relevant in a Salamangreat deck, that makes it a lot more reasonable, but I'm not really a Salamangreat kind of guy, so for me, it's a nothing. I'm not really interested in it. The Volcanic support is super fun. I did post a deck profile with all that new stuff in it recently, so if you're interested in playing the deck, check that out. And I do believe that Battle and Boxer stuff does have some relevancy in terms of, like, you can splash it into Infernoble. They got that King Dempsey, I think its name is. That's a pretty decent extra deck monster. So there's stuff in there that could work. And I think it's going to be hard to judge because I don't have nearly the amount of data of what happened after the set comes out like I do with all these other ones to judge this one on. My personal feeling, just based on how it seems to appear based on everything else, is I don't know that it's quite good enough, and I'd probably leave it at meh, right down the middle there. But that's going to be it for me. If you guys agree or disagree, make sure you comment down below. I'm happy to hear all of it. Please make sure to subscribe if you'd like to join the crew. I'd love to have you, so just hit that button and we can be best friends. If you're opening any Volcanic soul-burning explosion this week, best of luck. I hope you pull 1,000 Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf Ghost Rares or whatever it is your heart desires. Happy deck building. I'll see you guys in a couple of days. Have a good one. Bye.